Hello everybody, welcome back to the FM Technical Area, the Football Manager podcast, brought to you by me, your host, Gaffer Graemo, once again. It's been another week of Football Manager 24, and whether you're happy or not with that news, it seems like the overall feeling in, I suppose, the Slack, the Twitter side of the community that I tend to be a bit more involved in, even the YouTube element to an extent, everyone seems to have kind of gotten over the initial disappointment. Everyone seems to have gotten over the initial, anger and frustration at that news. And so it's embracing this new era, embracing this new challenge, embracing the new possibilities that we can really kind of explore with Football Manager 24. For me, it's been a very quiet week. It's been an international break. I don't resume my touchline duties until tomorrow with an away trip to Neuchâtel Xamax for another away trip to my hometown, Dala, to play Shamrock Rovers in the Europa League. So for me, there is a little bit of excitement now with the return of actual football in Football Manager 24. And I suppose the wariness and the nerves that I had with carrying a save over from FM24 the way it was to FM25 with the Unity engine, with all the new changes. So I suppose that's going to be put to bed a little bit now for the time being. So I suppose one of the things that I am... Hanover just scored a second against Schalke. I'm watching it on YouTube here, the Sky Bundesliga live stream, which is fantastic resource if you haven't checked it out. But yeah, I suppose the nerves that I had with FM25 have kind of been put to bed in that sense, especially when, after, I'm not just looking at the league table here, 10 games I've played, I am currently 9 points clear, and I have a game in hand over second place Lucerne. And I suppose third place Servette, they're both on the same point, Servette on the same number of games played, because they're my match in hand. So, you're looking at FM24, I've got a great bit of excitement ahead of me, because if I check the schedule now, with the game not coming out now until March, 30th of March, I hope it's, I've gotten a bit of a run up before then. 30th of March, I'm away to Young Boys again in a massive month that has me playing Servette, who are second at the moment, Lucerne, who are second at the moment as well, and then Young Boys at away. At Lucerne are, where is it in the league there now? Lucerne are 8th currently at the moment. So March is going to be an absolutely massive month of fixtures for me. So, like that, there is a little bit of nerves. Oh, thank goodness. Offside, VAR. Thank you, VAR, for ruling that goal out. So it's only 1-0 to Hanover. Sorry, getting back in focus, getting back on task here. March is a massive month for me, and I was quite nervous about bringing the game over and the save over in a massive way. And when international management, when all the announced things had been cut, I suppose, part of me does fear how... Well, it wasn't. Oh, scoreboard that says 2-0 there. Sorry, so I must have been wrong. So I'm obviously not listening. But, one of the things that I had a little bit of difficulty with accepting here was going to be how to bring the save over, because as we know, tactics change, match engine changes, and you from game to game. And, I saw that crowd there. Microphone's just blocking it there. Remove it. For any video watchers there, it's the Borussia Dortmund shirt hanging over me there. That was my test. Carrying over Borussia Dortmund from FM23 to 24 to see how it got on. And, the match engine, a little bit different in FM24 to FM23. The tactics, the way I was used to playing, didn't exactly translate over perfectly. So it forced me to adapt in a way I suppose I wasn't really anticipating or expecting. So to think with Basel now that it's possible that I'll be going through such a similar transition mid-season in March, which is quite late obviously in the season, is going to be a little bit has me a little bit nervous. But of course you have to be excited for the possibilities that a new Football Manager save brings. But look, as things stand, as things are, we are stuck with FM24. And I suppose one of the great things at this time is we can use it to experiment. I think Lama said it over on the Football Manager show podcast this week. It's possibly a great time to experiment with new saves, go places you've always wanted to go, do things you've always wanted to do. Just try those new things. And for me, that's something I want to do as well with the save. But with Basel, obviously, I need to keep things consistent. But because like that, with a 2 week break, I haven't played Football Manager since my last fixture, which was on the 6th of October. So we're talking 13 days now since I've last played the game. And for me, like that now, it's experimentation. It's going to be trying new things out on the side save, and whether it's going to be just solely with the podcast save over on the Inter Milan one, where like that players have been removed, all of these things. Whether it's going to be using that save, or I'm going to experiment with some of the little tactics that I want to try out, perhaps some of the philosophical features that I want to bring in, management styles, all the things we've been speaking about over the past number of weeks, the past number of episodes. It's a great chance to maybe experiment within a save, even if it's a safe option. Like, I want to manage Inter Milan because they've been doing fantastically well, but when I manage Inter, I want to try do it with these parameters, and that's a great thing we can do in terms of our experimentation in game this year. It's experiment really with for the next 6 months with the game, and see how can we approach it, how can we engage with it in a new way. So obviously then you can see the title, you know what this episode is about. We're talking about recruitment focuses. We're going to focus on the football side of things, and perhaps spending the next 6 months refining our approaches to recruitment focuses, refining our squad building approaches in Football Manager 24, so that when it comes to FM25, we have a better knowledge, better understanding, better depth in what it is we want to achieve with our squad building focus in the game. So look, let's not waste any time. Let's kind of get into things here. Now look, setting aside the key principle that underlies all of this is what makes a club's recruitment strategy truly effective is often about having a clear vision and sticking to it, even when the market changes. And that's the big thing with Football Manager 25 now. We're going to be looking at perhaps a new way of engaging with the transfer market, a new ways of finding talent, identifying talent, and hopefully perhaps data will make a massive change and another evolutionary growth in Football Manager 25, because for all the holes we can poke in FM24, and that all data is one of the things that the game does well, but does well to an extent that the limitations and the differences between real life understanding of these metrics and in-game can often make things a little bit challenging. But look, we want to try and embrace a changing market. We want to try and embrace a change in game as well. For many of us, our youth focused when it comes to our recruitment focuses. We want to find young players that we can bring in, develop, nurture, and whether we sell them on or turn them into superstars, that's obviously one option. Another one is signing undervalued talent. We all love finding these bargains, these players who are just, knocking you about it, mid-level, if you want to call it that way, clubs, mid-level leagues. We can bring them in and turn them into a star in the team that we're managing in whatever nation and whatever league that we're at. Sometimes then we want to focus on players who play a specific style of play. And perhaps that's one that we really need to focus on, because it's very easy to just go search by ability, search by current ability. The stats, this player scored whatever number of goals a season, has created this number of goals with their assists. Sometimes it's worth looking into a focus and a style, and perhaps understanding how best to find players that just suit your style as well. Top clubs, the best clubs, when you look at recruitment, they all know what they're looking for. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 clubs here to start us off in the first section, really, who are very shrewd in the transfer market, and I suppose who get discussed an awful lot, for rightly so, because it's just how they approach the transfer market. So first up, of course, is Brentford and their data-driven recruitment policy. With Brentford, they're a club that we know they're synonymous for recruitment. They use advanced statistics and analytics to identify undervalued players, often from lower leagues, often from lesser known markets. And what they can do is they are able to identify these players who fit seamlessly into the tactical identity of the club and the tactical system that their manager provides. And I suppose the fact that Thomas Frank has been there so long at Brentford, of course, identified for his own, philosophies, his own style of play. Everything at that club has been built around the tactical identity from the management and the coaching side of things to the player recruitment and development. So really, when you are setting up your manager profile on at the beginning of any football manager save, we can pick, are we going to be a tracksuit manager or are we going to be a suit? Are we going to be someone who, going to get mucky, get the boots on and get stuck into the development and coaching of players? Or are we going to be someone like that who hands off that responsibility and is more of an administrative type of manager? Then, of course, we have to, identify what are going to be our strengths. We build up our coaching and our mental attributes, but we're able to really effectively set out at the beginning what our, coaching philosophy, what our identity is going to be in Football Manager. Now, for me, like that, I always go for a balanced attacking and defending approach because not going to be sure just what the standard of the coaches I'm going to be working with are and where their strengths and weaknesses lie. So my feeling is if I've good tactical, technical, and mental attributes. Hear me saying statistics, my goodness. I'll be excommunicated for saying that. But if my attributes are tactical, technical, and mental are quite high, and have a balanced attacking and defending, I feel I can really get stuck in and really get involved in coaching and develop my players up to the best of their ability. But with Brentford, what they have is they have a manager, Thomas Frank, and they have like that, worked with these attributes that he has, Thomas Frank. They have identified his tactical style, which we spoke about in previous week's philosophies. Setting up your tactics in possession, out in transition, out of possession, formation and roles. All of this stuff has been set out so that when they dip into the transfer market, they know the players that he likes to play, the roles he likes to use, and the shape that he wants to play. And everything is, aligned with that. And it's, underwritten, it's informed by being data heavy on their approach. What Brentford do very well is identifying these specific metrics that can identify a potential impact of a player. The club obviously wants to focus on value for money. Transfer market is volatile, the transfer market is risky, there are no guarantees, but they would always try not overspend, but find value for money targets, players who are low risk and high potential, and the club's policy is they have a willingness to sell when the price is right. Like look at Ivan Toney this summer, look at the levels he's reached in England international playing for Brentford. If you'd said that when Brentford were promoted to the Premier League, if you'd said that 10, 15, 20 years ago, that, Brentford would have an England international playing up front and one that became an England international at the club, many people would have had doubts about how, realistic that could be. But in reality, what has happened has just been exactly that. And then this summer, of course, they identified that this is the right moment now to move Toney on. They sold him at the right price to the right club, and everybody feels like they've won from that transfer. And the thing is with Toney, he was a signing by Brentford. He was identified for his finishing, for his aerial prowess in the lower leagues. Brentford brought that in. They helped to step that up a level. They helped to round him off into a really, high level athlete, a high level forward for the club in the league, setting standards, setting markers for everyone else to follow. And then like that, they were able then to invest wisely in the beginning, develop and nurture, and then like that, a willingness to sell when the price is right. It's Football Manager in real life. Now, of course, how does what Brentford do apply to us in game? How can we take what we've learned from them? For all of the examples, I've kind of focused on a ball playing defender, because it seems like ball playing defenders are becoming a standard across many tactics that you see shared by the community, and in football as well, like the importance of building from the back, teams playing out from the back. So having a ball playing defender is the position and role that I'm going to base all of this around today. So when you have a ball playing defender, what metrics, what things are you going to use? What would Brentford do? And what you might focus on are key passes per 90 minutes. So to find that, when you are on your scouting screen, now I'm just going to get it up here now. I'm going to minimize myself up, so you'll see myself disappear up into the corner there now. But when you go into your scouting, go across the players. Now, focus on scout players here. That's something I'd always suggest to do. Go into the edit search option here. Now I'm going to clear this away here, and I'm going to clear that away here because that's from my Basel save. But what you're going to do is we're going to go into stats, general, and stats and chalkboard. We're going to passes, and as we said, key passes per 90 minutes is at least, and if you want to set a metric there of how high, what your expectations are. So let's say it's 3 passes. You want to have a good pass completion rate. So again, add condition, go to stats, chalkboard, go into passes, and then we are looking for pass completion ratio. And then we want to look for progressive passes as well. So again, stats, chalkboard, passes, progressive passes, and we're going to again go for per 90 minutes. And again, let's just set the target at 3. With this now, you can see I've 4 players have appeared on my list here who my scouts have found. None of these though are the central defenders. So we want to then identify central defender here. So position is natural at centre defender. Now as you can see, my metrics then have found no players here at the side. So we drop it back to, let's say, 1 and 1. And now we've got them. Now my scouts have found a list of players here. The recommendations are quite low, but again, it gives me an insight here into just what is available on the market. So going into the top recommendation here, Lamar Bogard of Pau FC in France, we can see he's a player who can play centre midfield, centre back. You can also fill in on the left side. Attributes are nice and well rounded. 20 years of age is quite young. So how can he build? How can he fit into what I'm trying to build at Basel? Now, of course, as we can see here in his playing history, Feyenoord and Aston Villa. So he's had a good bit of experience, but didn't make his debut at either. His first professional appearance there, coming on a loan spell, first of 2 at Bristol Rovers, before completing a loan move to Pau. But again, what we have here is, stats who can help identify players who've the ability to maintain possession and then play passes forward under pressure. It's very much, I suppose, like the Moneyball argument you see, that scene where, statistics are saying this guy's undervalued. The eye scouts are saying, no, that guy isn't good on the eye. What you have here is a perfect example of that kind of, combination of stats say one thing, scouts say another. What is the manager's decision going to be? So that's just one thing here, because of course, ball playing defenders, they will, we do want them to, like that, be capable of maintaining possession, keeping possession as the games go forward in match situations, as we want to build our philosophy up from the back. Now the thing is, if you want to add other little elements in to really kind of emphasize on this defender center, ball playing defender, there's a couple of other little statistics you can add in. So when you go into stats chalkboard, go down to tackles and interceptions, and go to tackle completion ratio, and again, set the standard aside one, so let's say 80%. And then we want to add in interceptions per 90 as well. And what we've done there is we've focused on, let's say, 1 interception per 90 minutes, for example. What we've kind of done then is we've ensured now that the list here, we have 2, Lamar Bogard and Alessandro Wolf of Eschen in the Erste Liga Group 3. We've identified 2 players here who are, capable of being effective in possession while also ensuring they're effective defensively, being on the ball. And what that's really kind of, I suppose, one example, one way in which the Brentford approach can work for you. One way in which I suppose the Brentford approach can be something that will allow you to find like these undervalued options that exist out there in the market. But of course, if it's something that you want to focus on and how good the scouts feel about these players, put a bit of weight on that recommendation as well, because like a C plus and a D for those 2 players who came up after me setting those isn't exactly the highest really. Opening it up to go into players in range will give you an awful lot more of an insight into just what is out there on the market, and then scouting from those statistics. It's a way of kind of reverse engineering in some cases. What you're saying that, okay, let's go for the analysis before we get the scouts involved and target scouting them, because like that at Basel, I haven't got a massive scouting budget. So, being wise with how I spend it, that perhaps is the most effective way and what we can do. And of course, I'm in a great position at a club like Basel where we're at a European level. We have this in the lower league side of things. How insightful can my scouts be at that level, but also how insightful can my analysts be at that level, which, let's be honest, they're going to be virtually non-existent. There's going to be an awful lot of, homework that you may need to do yourself. And for me, like that, I use the skin that's from FM Renzi over on Coffee House FM, and it has an integration of FM Stags stats, on the screen here, which I will, show you here. And what it does is then it gives me data metrics. I can set it down the bottom of just what I want. So let me see, Michael Lang selected. I go into data metrics. At the bottom, I selected the team defending. I then go across to the FM Stags tab on the player profile screen. I set it to full back, which is what Michael Lang is. And then I can kind of compare what's at the bottom in the screen with what's in the middle and see, right, just how is he performing? Just what is he doing? And of course, the ratings that we are seeing here on the right hand side in blue, because my analysts are able to provide that there, is really kind of giving me a really good insight into just Michael Lang himself for the squad, which, gives me an idea of if I want to replace Michael Lang, what are the metrics that I need to use here in this case. Now, the second club I want to focus on is Brighton and Hove Albion. Now, the second club I want to focus on is Brighton and Hove Albion. Again, another club in England who've risen extremely high. And of course, that's thanks again, in fact, to, signing good value signings with a good sell-on potential here. So, of course, with Brighton, we look at the players that have lined out for the club even before their promotion to the Premier League and since their promotion to the Premier League. And what we have here is a club that combines data analysis with strong scouting networks, especially in South America and Europe's lesser explored leagues. We think of players like, let's say, Alexis McAllister. They were the club that took the chance on him bringing him to Europe. They've done the same with Valentin Barco. They've done the same with Moises Caicedo. They found these players in South America. Other European clubs may not feel comfortable taking the risk on signing them, but Brighton trust themselves. They back themselves in just how they go about their business. These players that they bring in will buy into the playing style of the club, playing style of the manager, which, of course, again, just like Brentford, is set at the top of the club and runs down through the DNA of the club, the players they develop and sign. And, of course, but they will get to the point that they will always be open to sell if the player is right. So exploring these niche markets, identifying players who fit into the manager's tactical plan, these are perfect examples. And like we said, even the likes of Marc Cucurella, Alexis McAllister, players who fit Brighton's needs, who've moved on to other clubs for massive sums of money, significant profits, which Brighton again reinvesting excellently well and reinventing themselves. over and over again, and really kind of like that, keeping a really strong identity there, that these are a very well run club and a very well thought out process on just when player recruitment. So going into Football Manager 2024, again, as you will see me minimize myself up here into the corner, let's go back into the player search screen. I'm going to again go to scouted players, because that's exactly kind of where I want to focus on, because like that with Brighton, it's a combination of data analysis and strong scouting. I have my recommendations sorted from A+ down, so but these have no filters put on. So what we want to do with Brighton is, if we're looking for a ball playing defender, following the Brighton model, we want to focus on a couple of attributes. So once we set out that we want a central defender, we're going to pick the attributes here of vision, passing, and off the ball movement, believe it or not. Just to kind of we'll look at the movement here. We'll set at least, we'll drop it there, so I'd say to 12. Now I'm at Basel, so for me 10 might perhaps a little bit more of an accurate representation of what we have here. So again, we see the list instantly, and of course my scouts have already been hard at work here. Sepp Vandenberg coming in under a previous scout recruitment focus that I followed, topping the list off with just a high A recommendation. Now here's the thing, in FM you can also filter for passes, passing distance, or metrics like expected assists. So what we want to kind of go in here for it now is we want to go into stats, chalkboard, we want to go into passes, and we want to look at open play passes. Where's it going? So there's again. Sorry. Okay. Pass completion ratio, that's one thing we want to look at. I'm going to up it again to 80%. I want a high rate here. And another thing I want to do is I want to go into stats. I'm going to go into general here again, and I want to look at expected assists here. The thing is, I'm going to look at expected assists per 90 or expected assists in total. Again, the choice is really yours. If we go into expected assists per 90 and we say, let's say 0.3, okay, that's possibly too high. Looking at this 0.1, we then kind of, our list then becomes very, very refined here of just what is available on the market here. And then, of course, my scouting recommendations along the side. Now, if we go into our top rated player here, which is Jean-Kevin Duverne of Nantes, we can see versatile defender, can play at fullback on either side. The attributes, he's met the ones we've identified, just what it is we need to be here as a ball playing defender, which of the Brighton style. And then we're going to go in and we're going to use the FM Stag Stats tab from the Renzi skin. We go into centre back here, and it gives us central defenders across the big 5 leagues and a rating here. So what we can see is the ratings that JK Duverne has, a high average tackles per 90, a high average clearances per 90, quite a low interceptions per 90 stat, just about average in terms of shots blocked per 90, and again below average interceptions per 90. Well, that's repeated itself there again twice. But going in then to the polygon, looking into it, pass completion rate is kind of slightly fewer than the league the average, but it's like that 89%. Headers 1, tackles attempted. We can see just where Kevin Duverne's strengths really are. He doesn't commit many fouls, but he doesn't, make as many clearances. And, in terms of his interceptions, it's 0. It's a little bit lower than what the league is. But of course, that's not enough just to know this. We have to see how Duverne is being used. So if we go into kind of reports, analyst report I haven't gotten yet, scout report I haven't gotten. So what do I do when this is happening? If you just go into Nantes, go into their tactics, it'll give you just how the team played in the last game out. Duverne hasn't played, so we can't see just where it is. But if we go into form, Again, not showing up here where he has played. Sorry. The the Renzi skin has this with that games played in position. He's played 6 times as a centre back, scoring 1 goal, 3 interceptions in those 6 games, 6.65 average rating. So again, a player who, like that, statistics, all of these things, does it come together? Does it give us a clear idea of just how good this player is? It's up to you to say. I can't really say for you. You have got to make these decisions for yourselves. Now, of course, Duvern has a B plus rating, which for me is quite high. For me, it's perfect, exactly what I'm looking for. However, the one issue with Duvern is at the age of 27, we're looking at a player who hasn't got a lot of growth options left. His transfer value, look, if you see my transfer budget, 3.6 million, he's double that there at the very least, so I can't exactly be here. And at 9 grand per week, he'll eat up a massive amount of my wage budget. He's not for me. So then what I have to do is I have to look down at the younger players who is available here on the younger list. And look, our old friend Lamar Bogard jumping up here again, 4th on the list. So Bogard coming up quite high on the Brentford and Brighton models. So perhaps if he does not stay at Aston Villa for much longer, could he be a player we see lining up for the Bees soon enough? Only time will tell. Just before I jump into our third and final club, one of the things we can do as well is we can find out the average distance of our passes of our players, and we can see, just what type of passes they play in terms of the progressive passing nature. So I'm going to go into Arnaud Comas, who's my starting central defender, my main central defender at FC Basel here. When I go into him, I want to go into reports and I'm going to go into analysis. From this, I can choose from the drop-down menu a match. So let's pick our most recent game out, which was against FC Zurich, which, as you can see, I haven't progressed the game since I last played FC Zurich. When I go into Comas' stats on the game, I will go in here and I'm going to check out passes. Comas completed 61 passes in game. And now what I want to do is I want to find out which direction these passes were played in, which direction they were played in, using this analysis tool, which is something that many people do use, may feel comfortable in using. So with pitch area, I can define which areas of the pitch Comas played. Now Comas plays predominantly in the centre of my defenders because I don't use wide ones. So a lot of the passes are in this kind of central area, or into this central area. Passes into the defensive third is what we see here. Passes into the attacking third is what we see here. So these are kind of like more progressive passes, but not always progressive. And then what we see is kind of midfield passes. So passes into midfield. Where are they going? And what we see again here is where are they going? Are they going? Which pass went to the right flank? Which passes went to the centre of the pitch? And which pass went out to the left? And as you can see, with Comas, only 2 passes made it out to the left flank from him. Direction at the bottom, we can also choose. We can see which backwards passes were played. We can choose passes which were played side to side and passes played forward. And then in terms of the length, so let's say we want to see Comas passes into the attacking half of the pitch. We want to see passes which obviously are forward, so which will be, again, limits what we see Comas here. And now we can choose short passes. Which passes do Comas play? So I can get an analysis, an idea of what way my players use progressive passing here. So if I'm building up an idea of a player I want to sign, this is something I want to see here. Comas only played in the Zurich game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 progressive passes that were short into the final third. Medium length passes, he played 1, as you can see here. And then long passes, he played 2, and 2 looking for the corner, which I suppose would be where I'd have the likes of Wang Gauto or the last match Yusuf Demir playing, or Drager, the right wing back, attacking that space. So that's what we can see here. In terms of just passes into midfield, short passes into midfield, what did he play? All of them forward. Again, we see the few here, side to side, again, a couple. But what we have here is we can build up a really good understanding of our players. We can build up a great idea of what it is we have available to us at our clubs. We can see just what it is that makes them. and can give us a deeper understanding here. Now, of course, with these stats, we can compare matches as well. So if I want to choose, let's say, the last match out in before Zurich in the league was against St. Gallen. Okay, once the match report generates here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to select the passes, and I can see against oppositions using certain tactics, does that have much of an impact or much of an influence here? So in terms of forward short passes into the attacking third, as you can see, Coma, did not play passes in the same way against St. Gallen as he did against Zurich. What we can also identify here are passes which were of a medium length forward against St. Gallen, more deeper passes. So it gives you, again, an idea of the opposition, the strength of opposition that you play, and their game plan. And in terms of the long passes forward, again, Coma just playing the one, and look where that much deeper position was. So it's one thing to understand and one thing to know how your players, what you want in the players, but it's also another thing to understand how the players work in your system, in your tactics, so that when you go to look for these players, when you're identifying new targets coming in, when you look at the progressive passes, seeing how your tactics, how your opponents can influence and shape just what it is that you're trying to do. Now, the third and final model is perhaps of a club which can divide many players' opinion, many football enthusiasts' opinion, and it is RB Leipzig in Germany, a club who are renowned again for being part of that Red Bull system, which is youth development and development pathways centered. So, like that, when you are managing Leipzig, what are your remits? What is it you've been told to do? Well, one of the things you've been told to do is to target young, high potential players and integrate them into the clear playing philosophy of the club, which is a high pressing model. So when you're looking for a high pressing model, you're looking at players with speed, stamina, and tactical adaptability. Because, of course, tactical shapes, tactical systems, and nuances can develop if they progress through the systems. But, of course, as we spoke about before, in terms of setting pressing traps, adaptability to play different roles, adaptability to press in different ways, all of these things do filter into Football Manager to an extent as well. So players coming into Leipzig have to be of a young age profile. They have to be seen as a buy to develop approach, so you're not buying the finished article, and of course, like that, align with the brand of the club, of the model, which is high pressing. Now, players like Deo Upamecano, Christopher Nkunku, these players thrived under the club's aggressive style before moving on to bigger clubs. Even players like we've seen like Dominic Szoboszlai, we've seen Sadio Mane as well, fitting clearly with even Jurgen Klopp style of football, the high pressing, heavy metal football that these players learned and thrived in at. I think in Szoboszlai's case at Liefering before Salzburg, both at Salzburg. Mane moves to England before he goes to, instead of going to Leipzig where Szoboszlai goes, and then Szoboszlai of course makes the transition across to England there. So when we go into Football Manager, when we are trying to take this recruitment focus, when we're trying to come up with these searches, all of these things, what kind of conditions do you want to develop here? So what I'll do is I'll go into recruitment focus for this club here and create one, and we will search for any position from the tactic, and we're going to call it the RB style. Now, when we've selected our RB style, we want players for transfer and loan. Players like that, minimum current ability can be 2 stars, minimum potential ability, again, set it for what it is for you. Let's just say 3 stars here. It's a young profile here, so we're looking at players, I always feel, less than 23. Areas, I do want to choose somewhere that's, perfect for you. Are you looking for anywhere in particular? It's registration rules you need to meet. Set the areas there of what it is that works best for you. Now, we want to go into the further details. We want to establish these. So we're going to have to pick some attributes. We can, and with this, we can pick some statistics, club vision. That's when we can really fit in well. General, competitions played in, all of these things we can do really, really well here. Now, one thing though I would rather do is just for the sake of this video, just for the sake of this podcast, do it as a scouted players focus, and say you can save it then as a filter. So we're going to clear what we developed the last time, and then we're going to look for players in any area of the pitch. We'll set the maximum age to 23, just like we did before. Transfer status as any, loan status as any, contract status as any. We won't set a scouting team recommendation. We'll keep that, open like as we've done in the past. And then what we'll do is we'll get into what it is we want. These players have to have 3 key attributes, as we said already. They have to have a high pace, they have to have a good level of stamina, and of course they have to have work rate. Again, set it to a realistic level for you, the level that you're at. So just like the last time out, I will set it to 10. And then what I'll do is I'll go in and add the additional conditions. Because of course there needs to be metrics. We need to see, are they successful? Not just with these attributes, but applying them in Football Manager. So one thing we want to go in is focus on pressures per 90. So drop down to stats, chalkboard, tackles and interceptions, and pressures. You can go pressures attempted per 90, pressures completed per 90. I'm happy enough to go with pressures attempted per 90 and set it at, let's say 3 again, 3, the magic number. We then want to focus on successful tackles. So again, dropping out the stats chalkboard, going into tackles at the bottom, tackles completed per 90 minutes. And let's set that to 1.5. Or again, if you want to go a little bit higher, 2.5, 3, whatever it is. But I'm going to leave it at 1.5 for the sake of this. What we have there is now we've built up a list of players that will fit in with this in all areas of the pitch, because we haven't focused on a specific position. But what we have here is that we can see here, look, gives us a great idea of just the range of players that we have. If you want to narrow it down, of course, right, we're looking for a central defender here. Here are the central defenders who work with this model. Here are the central defenders that fit in with just what it is that we need them to be. Players who are, strong, who are quick, and like that, who can be quite good in pressure. And look, this man pops up again, Lamar Bogard, fitting perfectly with all 3 models. Now, of course, the C plus might be enough to put you off. It might not. How well do you trust your scouts? What I'll do then is I want to scout player, any scout until full knowledge, and then send them out, because of course how high he's coming up on these models. Although we have extensive knowledge, I want that C plus. I want to get a full, deeper understanding of Bogard. But of course he's not available. So maybe someone like this Max will here at Sandhausen. A player like that, when we go in and check how good he is using FM Stag's stats and setting it for a central defender, we can see he is very good in his tackles per 90, very good in his clearances per 90, poor in terms of his interceptions per 90 and shots blocked per 90, like that. Just a low average really there. But again, Guicheville fitting perfectly into, what it is we could work at, what it is we could work with. And then versatility is popping in here. Like the only player here who's really, pigeonholed would be Yannick Lurs at Hanover 92nd, second team. But what we have here again is an idea of what it is we have with our players, what it is that we, can find from the market. And of course, you can save these filters, save it as, RBLs, whatever it is, and keep it there for yourself. So when you want to check in with that model, when you want to check in with this and say, okay, let's focus on, let's say I need a new striker perhaps, because like that, pressures, attempted tackles, all of these things. Former Basel favourite Zeki Amdouni topping the pile, and dream player there, and Troy Parrott also coming in second. But again, these players, topping the list, fitting in with the philosophy that Leipzig have set. To add to what we found here, so let's go into Troy Parrott, player who I want. If we go into that scout player's profile, we just can go into goal scoring striker. We can, again, with FM Stag, it's great that the statistics that we can find out here. We'll go into player profile, go into reports, and drop down to analyst report. Again, what we can again here is build up a deeper knowledge of player analysis, all of the little bits and pieces that we need to find out. And if you would like to find out again, assign the scouting pool until full knowledge, pick your time, scout player until full knowledge, any of these things. you can really then build up a statistical understanding again of this player, find out the analysis. Now, unfortunately, in Troy Parrott's case, that information isn't there. I haven't exactly gotten it all, but nonetheless, it's a way that we can maximize our resources. It's a way that we can build up a really good and clear identity in Football Manager of, finding players based on attributes, finding players based on statistics that can fit in with what it is that we're looking for. So whether we're focusing on a youth development model or scouting overlooked markets, if we're trying to use data analytics to, supplement a poor or low scouting budget, whatever it is, these can give us some great insights. But of course, statistics, all of this is all new learning in football. It's been done in America for a long, long time. Look at the stats that can come up with so many players in American sports. So I think we really do have to spend a little bit of time of looking at the American sports. What can we just learn from what they do? Now, when we speak about American sports, we are speaking, of course, of sports which have statistics long ingrained in just what it is that they want to do. And I suppose it's why we're seeing, and we have seen in recent years, a rise of American owners. They see football as this, Wild West, this opportunity to invest and take lessons learned from American sports and apply them to, the sport of the world, really, the world's game in football. In this segment, we're going to focus on 3 American sports, individuals, franchises, and, I suppose, recruitment models, in order to try and build and deepen up an understanding of, what it is they do, how they work, but how, of course, the most important thing, that can be translated into Football Manager. So, first of all, we're going to go with Billy Beane, the iconic, director of GM. That's what I couldn't think of. The iconic GM of the Oakland A's. The guy behind, I suppose, who was the face of the movie Moneyball that we saw recently, and of course, inspired many Football Manager interpretations of that philosophy and that approach. And look, you won't have to go far to find some people out there who are doing just that. When it comes to Moneyball, the idea is focusing on base percentages. That's what Billy Beane, that was the statistic, that was the metric that they really strove to identify undervalued targets with undervalued players, rather than looking beyond traditional statistics that many scouts, that many analysts of the game would look at, including like batting average. So the idea of getting on base can get you runs, getting runs wins games. Think of it in a footballing sense, just what can we do that gets us goals? What can we do to get goals? Because the more goals we get, the better chance we have of winning games. Translating into Football Manager, focusing on attributes like off the ball, work rate, and then statistics like pass completion, that can give us a great insight into just what it is we want to do, using the Moneyball approach and how we can adapt it into Football Manager. Off the ball moved, of course, how good is a player at finding space? If you go into the definition of a player in Football Manager, and what off the ball means. So if I take, for example, Dominic Schmidt here, I check out attributes, and I go to off the ball. It reflects the player's ability to move when not in possession of the ball, making themselves available to receive pass in a dangerous position. So if you've got players like that who are able to make themselves available to receive a pass in a dangerous position, you are increasing your team's attacking threat. And if you've got a high attacking threat, you have a great chance of fashioning a goal-scoring chance, a goal-scoring opportunity. Work rate, conversely, reflects the player's willingness to work to his full capacity, going above and beyond the call of duty. If you have a team of players who are willing to, go above and beyond the call of duty to put themselves, cover as much of that grass as possible, many blades of grass as possible in the game, you've got a team that's willing to work hard to get a result. So again, teams of players who can find themselves in dangerous positions on the pitch, team players who will go above and beyond the call of duty to create, to put their bodies on the line, to do everything they can for the team to win. And then, of course, a high pass completion percentage, because if you've got a high pass completion percentage, means you're retaining the ball. And if you're retaining the ball, then your chances of conceding are considerably reduced than compared to, say, for example, the when you are out of possession. Because when you are out of possession, that's when your team is defending. And when your team is defending, you have a greater chance, a greater propensity to concede than you naturally would, of course, when you were in possession of the ball. So identifying these stats, identifying these, attributes, that can give you a great insight, a great idea of what it is you want to do in Football Manager if you want to take a Moneyball style approach. But how can you adapt that? How can you bring that to the likes of a ball playing defender? The position and role that we have been focusing on in this episode so far. So instead of just looking for a ball playing defender when you go into your like trying to identify the players that you have. So we'll go into players in range for this one because we're going to go beyond what the scouts just do. We're not going to go in and say ball playing defender, not natural at a centre back, but we're not going to pick the role here. And the reason we want to instead here, we want to focus again on trying to find hidden gems with this idea. So again, we'll up the age limit there as well to say 27, open to a broader range of players here. And what we want to do again, as we said, is look for players with high off the ball, so high work rate and a good pass completion percentage. Now I'll drop this down to 10 here again to just be inclusive of the players that I can find. Use my we'll go into the player search here. We just going to go into look for general info or overview. Selection info. Again, I'm just going to go in here, just go into overview of who it is that we're looking at here. Now we want to pick the statistic of a good pass completion. So we're into stats, chalkboard, passes, pass completion ratio is on a high one there. So let's say 80% or 90% even, who completes 90% of their passes. What we have there is again instantly a good overall idea of the players in Football Manager who complete 90% of their passes, who can play centre back, and who've good off the ball and work rate metrics. Now the thing is, with strong pass completion, there is one caveat. Many of these passes can go backwards, many of these passes can go sideways, and when you're a central defender, any of these passes could be potentially dangerous because, as we said, in baseball, with Moneyball, it's about getting on base. So with football, it's about not just completing your passes, but being progressive because we want to score goals. So again, progressive passes per 90. Let's say 3. 3's been our magic number so far. So we'll continue with 3 progressive passes per game. Of course, we can go much, much higher if you want to say 10. Again, for me, it's limit my search to absolute 0. 5 in the middle. Really, really narrow focus here now, which you can see is just in the 34 players found in my game, in my save here. And what I can do here now is, look and see just who these players are. We know what stats they're meeting. We know the attributes. We know the characteristics they have. We've identified a particular position here, a particular role. And this is very similar to what we see Billy Beane doing. Finding a player with this high on-base percentage, even if they weren't known for their batting average. Like, look at the nature of the teams here. Vaduz, Wolves are in championship at this level. Obviously, Max Kilman's going to come in and go high. Like Aaron Cashin of Derby, Silas Nyaka of Magdeburg, Jonas Feidel of Meppen. These are players who I would not normally say naturally come up with. And even my scouts, only Claudio Kamernecht of Dynamo Dresden and Maxime Leverbe of Pisa are the only 2 players on this top screen here who my scouts have found. Even to the point of knowledge, extensive, marginal, these are the only 2 players my scouts have found. So I've gone beyond what my scouts are looking at here to identify these players. And if we want to look at even some of more defensive statistics, if we want to add these in, so the stats chalkboard again, tackles and interceptions, adding any of these in here. If you want one that makes a lot of clearances, is quite good at interceptions, blocks, pressures, attempted. These again will give you a good idea of some of the defensive actions, say leading to possession. So interceptions, perhaps they're possibly the best one of defensive actions leading to possession regains, because block isn't necessarily going to do that. Clearance isn't necessarily going to do that. But even possession won per 90 minutes. Again, great one here is at least, let's say 10 times. That list of 34 is now down to 30. We can up it again if you really want to refine it to say 50, 30, even 20, doubling what we initially found. Look, drops it down to 4 here. 6 now as the filter expands. But again, it gives us this idea of potentially undervalued players we might potentially miss, who wouldn't come in to our natural range of players we're finding. And then if you want to get the scout opinion, add it. You've got the model, you've got the statistics, you've got the recruitment focus in here now. And then look up here top. Would you like to create a recruitment focus yourself and help with this search? Yes, we can then complete that there and set it off. So we've got this Moneyball style approach into Football Manager. Now, I'm not going to focus on the centre back here for this one, because one thing Bill Belichick was excellent at was finding versatile players who can fit specific roles rather than chasing star names. Now, the thing is, because New England were successful, there was a want of players to come and work with Belichick. There was a want of players to come and work with New England and be a part of the organisation. Obviously, as we all know, when it comes to American sports, the transfer system is completely different to the transfer system we have in football. Trades, free agency, these things play a bigger impact in American sports than they would naturally in soccer or football. So rather than prioritizing, players who are, specialists, one of the things Belichick does is he prioritizes players who are adaptable to multiple positions, and he would tend to favor role players, players who can execute a game plan. So, you take a look at this screen here now that I am going to share with you. These are just all the players that appear in the database here. Scouting knowledge, it's based on scouting knowledge, which is extensive, and it's been, ranked in that order. On this top screen here, look at the specialist players we have here. Poacher, centre back, pressing forward, so strikers and defenders. These perhaps would be the only positions other than a goalkeeper where you would look for specialised positions. But I suppose one of the things you could see here as these are, I suppose, the positions that you want to specialise in. If you've got someone like Sebastiano Esposito who appears at the top, an attacking midfielder or striker. If you've got David Schnegg of Hellas Verona who can play wing back, left back or left midfield. Versatility in these areas is not necessarily a bad thing. Players who can play on either wing or up front. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. But for the positions which are going to make a big impact, make a big difference, this is where your versatility, perhaps you don't want to necessarily have it. You want to focus on just having an out-and-out striker, a specialist striker. I want an out-and-out centre-back, a specialist. And I want an out-and-out goalkeeper. But everywhere else, I'm free to be versatile. Say, for example, Calvin Twigt here, who is a regista, as my scouts say, with Volendam, capable of playing in defensive midfield or midfield centre. This slight bit of opportunity here means I can work with this. I can be adaptable depending on the game plan I have and the opposition I have. Players like Thales here, who can play as a winger naturally, but can also play as centre midfield in terms of an accomplished. What we have here again is a player who can give me flexibility in an in-game situation of, rather than need to make a substitution, I can change in-game with the players that I have available to me. Now the thing is with Belichick though, he did put an awful lot of emphasis on some key characteristics, some key traits of a player. So versatility is one thing, but mental attributes would be a very, very key aspect. He wanted intelligent players. He wanted players who, like that, would put the team first. The players who would be adaptable in different tactical setups. So in order to do that here, when you're setting your picking your players, Belichick again wouldn't necessarily be overly caught up with age. Players at any stage of their career who he felt would still have an effective season ahead of them would be identified. So Belichick would again go into work rate, the ability of a player to go above and beyond for the team. Teamwork, another one, again, and determination. These were seen as 3 key pillars of being a Bill Belichick player. Now, of course, we'll just sort by transfer value here. Obviously, what could it possibly be? And we'll go into the top player here, which is Raul Gomez at Wolves. Determination. The player's commitment to succeed and do his best on and off the pitch. Teamwork. How the player can follow tactical instructions while working alongside and for his teammates. And of course, work rate to go above and beyond the call of duty. This is a Bill Belichick player. This is a Bill Belichick system. And this is a Bill Belichick way of assembling a squad. If you're going to say to me, is it realistic to do things in Football Manager like that? I'm going to tell you absolutely. Let me take you over here, of course, to Coffee House FM and an FM Grasshopper blog from back in 2022. FM Grasshopper, as we said before, worked on this FIBRA approach, instilling a fighting spirit into his team. So first of all, we defined what makes a FIBRA attribute score, keeping it simple, purely mentally focused, aggression, bravery, determination, teamwork, and work rate. Attributes which are like that, all mental and focus on what it is a player can bring to the team. Now, of course, score is then added on these statistics. So then measuring a player's effectiveness in a statistical sense based on what it is that is done here. Now, I'll link below to this blog if you haven't read it or you just need a bit of a refresh. But these are some of the ways in which we can adapt the idea of like versatility and fit over star power in building a squad. Because, of course, we're all not in a position to build a team of stars. We're not all in the era of Galacticos and our saves. So sometimes like that, we just need to be a bit flexible in who it is that we identify and who it is that we bring in. And then last of all, there's Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors. A team that emphasizes chemistry and high intelligence of the players that are brought in to work for this team, to be a part of this team and contribute to their success. So Kerr's approach with the Warriors has focused on building a team with a high basketball IQ, where players can execute complex plays and adapt during games. Now here's the thing, in Football Manager we don't tend to have complex plays. We don't tend to have these drawn up plays. We just tend to, like that, try to create complex patterns of play in game in order to be effective. So of course we need to focus then on like that players who are technically sound, players who are tactically sound as well, and players who are adaptable in game. So again, we're focusing on this IQ, this high intelligence. So one of the key concepts we need to consider if you want to take a Steve Kerr approach to Football Manager is building a cohesive team that understands everyone's movements and emphasizes unselfish play. So once again, a team that creates stars who are team players rather than having stars from the beginning. So when you go into your scouting screen, when you're going in here, what you want to do is to take the Steve Kerr approach. You want to focus on 3 key attributes here. You want to focus on players who have a high decision making, high teamwork, and high vision attributes. Now, again, I'm reducing this to 10 to fit the needs of the players that I have to, to kind of be adaptable to the players that, I'm realistically going to sign. We'll drop into Ryan Nuri here. Wolves have been relegated, which is why he's kind of coming up here. And look, we just check out the decision making here. So the player's ability to make the correct choice with and without the ball. Teamwork, how player can follow tactical instructions, working alongside and for his teammates. And vision, the player's ability to see a potential opening and spot an opportunity another player may not have seen. So you're working on IQ here, you're working on the team ethic here. And then of course one of the things then you need to do is you need to build up tactical familiarity. So dropping into say Dominic Schmidt, who'd be one of my key players with FC Basel. You want to see just how familiar Dominic Schmidt is with my tactics, because this is then the final element. We want our players to be very familiar with what it is we do, what it is we expect of them when it comes to Football Manager. So from Schmidt's profile screen, we're going to go into development and go into tactics. What we see here is positional abilities, defender left natural, which is selected, the roles and his proficiency in playing in these roles, overview of the strength of his left foot and his right foot, the games played in each position, so the statistical breakdown there, and player traits. What player traits does he have? Over here on the right hand side of the screen that we have tactical familiarity. So what we can see is we can see just how comfortable he is with what it is that's being asked of him. We can then go down here and we can say, right, I want to play Dominic Schmidt as a left back, as an inverted wing back on support. Just how familiar is he with these? As you can see, everything here ticks off. It's based on the 4-2-3-1 Basel style that I have. So he's become accomplished with the passing style that I'm being asked, but everything else he is fluid in. So what we can do here then is we can build up an understanding of our own players and see, are they ready to fulfill these roles? Are they ready to step in? And I suppose you look back at many managers, and many managers might not be keen to rush players in when they take over a club. You might see a player sidelined for a while to learn the new manager system, or if they've made a transfer to your club, how is it that they are getting on? So I think, for example, there, I think back to Liverpool, I think of Fabinho, I think of Andy Robertson. These guys didn't necessarily start for Liverpool when they came in, but what they did do is once they came into the team, they never left. So in my case, Daniele Maldini will be that player. He's only after signing for the club. It's his first season. So going into development and tactics, we can see attacking midfielder centre is his natural position. And when playing as attacking midfielder centre, attacking midfield is the best role. The thing is, I prefer a shadow striker. This the main goal scoring threat of the team who operates just off a main striker. So going in here to my attacking midfield centre from the drop down, going down to shadow striker on attack, how capable and competent is he of playing and adapting to my style? And as you can see, he is fluid, and just like with the passing style of Schmidt, he is accomplished. So what I see is he is ready to play for me. And of course, exposure and game time is going to help do that, and doing that so over the pre-season. It's why I'm so keen to get players in early in the window in order to do that with them. Davide Batella is another player I've brought in. So checking out his tactical development, you can see a wide centre-back is his natural way of playing. However, I prefer to use him as a ball-playing defender on defend. So going into defender centre left, ball-playing defender defend. Again, we've worked on it because one of the things we've done is we've gone to development training, ball-playing defender on defend. We've worked on additional focuses, all of these things. He's developing a trait at the moment at my coaches. But again, tactical familiarity will pop up here. And we can see defender centre left. We can just pick it here from the side. Ball playing defender. Yep, we're all good. So once, like Steve Kerr, we need to have this IQ of our players. We need to know what we need to expect from them. But of course, one of the things is we have to educate them. And we need to check on the education and see, are they ready? And sometimes if we have an extra tactic developing in the background, sometimes we can drop in here and say, right, if I switch to this tactic, so for example, if I want to switch to a 5 at the back with Basel, I'm going to play Davide Batella as a left-sided wide centre back. How is he going to get on there? I mean, he isn't exactly ready for this because we're not training it, we're not developing it in the background at the moment. But I know that if I have developed and trained this in the background, I can make a change here and say, right, my players are ready. We're ready to take this on individually. X, Y, and Z are not. So we're just going to have to leave them out for a little bit longer and start 1, 2, and 3 instead of them, whoever it is. But what we've done here with Billy Beane, what we've done here with Bill Belichick, and what we've done with Steve Kerr is we just tried to focus on key principles from American sports on identifying and developing a recruitment focus, how to make a successful team on the pitch reflect the ideals that you have off the pitch. Because translating these actions and into strategies, translating these lessons into strategies and approaches in Football Manager, that can be a little bit tricky. So I suppose that's one example there where I've showed you, but how can we go that extra step? How can we just go that a little bit further on? So taking the strategies we've learned from all of the coaches, all of these, GMs from American sports, the models that we've seen with Brentford, Brighton, and RB Leipzig, how could I, say for example, with my FC Basel save here, translate these into Football Manager 24, into FM25, to build a squad that fits my tactical vision? So look, let's go through some of the lessons we've discussed. Let's go through and apply this. So going to the recruitment focuses screen, as you can see here, on the left, you can see some of my active ones. I have control, this CTR, this refers to contracts expiring in 12 months. So what players are expiring here. I have Switzerland highlighted because of homegrown rules that I need to apply, which also reflects the All-Switch search and the Credit Suisse Super League. I probably have too many here on reflection, so I might just take away this Credit Suisse Super League one, remove this focus from scouting priorities and leave it in the completed section, which you can see here. I have a homegrown club of over 27, and what I'm trying to do here is find, again, homegrown players I can bring in who can just come in and be mentors to the younger players in the way that Fabian Fry is doing for me at the minute, and Michael Lang. And the Challenge League, again, that's going to be another one I remove because I'm just going to let the Switzerland one focus on that there. Now what I want to do is, now that I've cleared and I've done away with this, I want to now find and set up some new recruitment focuses. So I'm going to create a new recruitment focus inspired by a Moneyball approach, let's say for a ball playing defender. So I'm going to target centre backs here. And let's say we're going to choose a role which is ball playing defender. So players suited, minimum proficiency set to the role is good. Now the details. 2-star current ability is fine with me. 3-star minimum potential ability because that's what I need to come into my squad. I have a philosophy at the club that I must sign young players. So 23 is going to be the maximum age I look for here. All areas. It's a standard one we're going to look at because this is something we're going to need next season. Any scout, any analysts, I'm going to allow that to be flexible here. Now I want to go into the further details and I want to establish the further details here. So I want to set up some analysis and stats. So defending, I want to look at interceptions made. Defending. Interceptions made per 90 minutes. I want to look at tackles won. And I want to look at progressive passes. So tackles won, high tackles won ratio, and then add a progressive passing. It's not giving me the option for progressive passing there, so I suppose pass completion percentage would be the one there. Or now that I've set that up, this will help me find those players, ball playing defenders, who fit the high statistical metrics that I believe are best to identify the characteristics of a ball playing defender for myself. And as we see that there, that has now been set up at the side. And I'm going to call that the BPD Moneyball, so that I know that is saved there and that is ready for me to dip in and out of as time goes on. No, nothing yet, but we're only beginning this approach here. When we find players, for example, let's say we jump in here to the contracts expiring tab here. What we want to do is we want to look beyond the star rating here, because of course that is subjective. Instead, we want to check for players with strong statistics in these areas. So if I'm a high pressing team like RB Leipzig, what do I want to do? Well, I want to then go in and check the reports, the analysts, and fully scout this player so I can find these here. Another way to do it is set this up any position for tactic. 23 is the maximum age, 3 stars, an ongoing one, and further details. I want to get onto analysis and statistics here. I want to go for defending, and I want to go for like that pressures completed, and I want to check for movement. I want to look at a high distance covered per 90 minutes, because what these will do here is these will help identify high pressure players who cover a high distance. So we're going to call this the high pressers. So this will help me then know these are going to be the players, high pressing players from all positions of the pitch. Connor Taylor already jumping up from 2 other focuses there as a player who fits that metric perfectly. So as we can see, attributes are quite good. Scout report is an A minus. He's ongoing. So like that, hopefully now we can get a good idea. And perhaps Connor Taylor will be a player that makes the move across to us if that position fits a need we have at the end of the season or in the next transfer window. Youth development and pathways. How can we create recruitment focuses here? Well, it's very simple. I have to focus on this young and up and coming one, but I also have to know what pathway I have. So I need to make sure my development center, I have to see, right, I have these 2 guys who are ready to step up. These 2 guys are first team candidates, Kevin Trundle at 18 and Ekrem Salabazic at 16. So I have to be ready that, these guys are good. And at 16, again, you may be reluctant to throw them into too much game time from the beginning, but perhaps things are getting ready there. So like RB Leipzig, I know my pathway here is a promising winger and a young centre-back. So when I go in to set up a scouting and recruitment focus that is looking for these young talents, any position at the pitch, 2-star minimum, I need to know that, well, look, I have a Kevin Trundle here who's a centre-back and I have a young winger already at the club. So these will not be key priorities. So what we want to kind of find here now is young development stars. And then we want to, again, just, kind of find what it is we fit in. What things can we do here? But in the Leipzig system, it has to be purely focusing on this pathway that we already have here. What we got, where are things coming? And look, in fairness to myself at FC Basel, I'm in a great position here. That when you go into these squads and you check for the potential ability, I said to kind of not put too much emphasis on the star ratings, but things look pretty good for us right now. And it's an exciting long-term save that I'm really glad to be part of. That's really testing my patience, knowing that, I have some really, really strong up-and-coming young players here that are going to be ready to make a big splash for me at the club. Sometimes, though, you want to bring players in who fit a particular personality type. So when you go into your recruitment focuses and you're kind of focusing on the further details, perhaps you want to focus on players with like high professionalism and high determination. So of course, these these personality types, as we see here, these can be very, very, important to us to know that, okay, fairly professional, balanced, ambitious. What do I want from my players? Professional and determined. And of course, if there's a model citizen thrown in there somewhere, we will absolutely jump at a chance to try and pick that up and have someone like that be a part of the club and bring something like that is truly, beyond what it is that we have already in place. Scouting pool can also be used to explore unusual and different markets. Now I go in here to my scouting coverage, I can see like that we are very, very strong in this Central European area. Our world knowledge of South America is also quite good, and we also have a decent knowledge, of North Africa, Eastern Asia as well, and Western Asia here, for Eastern Europe. Exploring these niche markets for me is going to be ideal. I really want to make the most of what it is I have here. So even like that, when I am setting up a recruitment focus, sometimes like that, I can be any from position, but I'm going to send them to a particular area of the world. I'm going to send them to, in this case, it's only allowing me to scout Europe because of the scouting package I have in place. And extending it like that will be a massive outlay, something that we can't really do. But like that, I'm not going to, just be pigeonholed into this. So sometimes I have to go into like that, players in range. I have to work within my means. But, the success of some of these clubs is finding players from these niche from these niche leagues, from these niche clubs, and sometimes even like that, it might just be going into our competitions that we're in, so checking out the Europa League. Okay, look, we see clubs here that perhaps I haven't got a good level of knowledge of, and then, spending a bit of time to focus on them, see who's doing well. Sligo Rovers top of the Europa Conference League after one game. I'm sure Sligo fans will be absolutely delighted with that there. But again, you look at the clubs here, look at the teams here and say, right, Neftchi, I've got this players, who have they got? Scouting required. Okay, I can, report, I can send my scouts and figure out, build up knowledge like this of clubs who participate at a continental level and will further increase what it is that I have here. Sometimes, again, director of football recommendations can also be very, very useful here to finding, some players that we perhaps want to add to what we already have. So if we go into Per Nielsen here, I go into reports and scout reports. I can see here who are Per Nielsen's recommended players. And Fernandinho of Burgos, Spain, a 23-year-old pressing forward, is top of the list, though perhaps for financial outlay at that much, I could be very reluctant to spend that level of money. But still, it gives me an idea then, this is who my director of football is thinking. This is my director of football's recommendations. These are perhaps players I could bring in. Because like that, these can often fit into our system very easily. They can balance data analysis and give us hands-on scout reports all in one place with some of these recommendations that they do give. As well, we can also set up our scout reports like that to filter and emphasize attributes most relevant for our system. So if you're playing this high pressing system like that, you go into your players, scouted players, we can clear the search here and say, right, we're just going to filter for these players, for the high pressing players. These players have good stamina, these players have good work rate, and these players have good aggression. And what we have here is these players now are all suited to a high pressing system. Sort by recommendation. A lot of our top targets here are minimal or marginal knowledge at best. So let's send the scouts out. Franco Cervi, wow, blasting the past. Football Manager coming up there from Benfica. FM 18 days there, coming back on the list. Perhaps I might reunite myself with him, though. Not at that wage. But still, that is again another way in which we can focus on. Maybe sometimes like that as well, we want to just focus on particular player traits. We want to just really, refine just what it is that we're looking at. So let's go into your search, go into general, then go into player trait, and pick the player trait you want. I want a player who dictates tempo and who sits in defensive midfield and is at most 23 years of age. 3 players. Scouts have already found them, and now I can work with this. Sometimes like this, if I'm even focusing on a ball-playing defender, I don't want him to dictate tempo. I want him to bring the ball out of defence because we are a possession-based team. Again, sort by scout and recommendation. And again, a great way to use the scout and focuses that we already have in place. But really, I hope this episode, and what I hope to have done here, is to show you that take the time now in what's left of Football Manager to explore and experiment with these recruitment focuses. Start a new save if that's what you want to do, or focus down the line, and like that when you're setting your player age search, reduce it all the way down to 19 or 17. Pick an age and say, right, we're going to focus on this age group here, and on a 3 to 5 year save, if that's all you might get done before FM25 comes out, what you've done is you've built up a new team and evolved your team that you're currently with by using recruitment focuses to find what it is that's going to come next. Because if we can combine some of the elements of the recruitment focuses of the world's most shrewd operators into our saves, if we can combine the lessons we can learn from other sports, all of a sudden we can have a squad in Football Manager that's absolutely perfectly tailored to you, your philosophies, and your tactical visions. So whether it's going to emphasize on data first and be data driven like Brentford, whether you're going to go for this youth development long-term save like RB Leipzig that has a pathway within your ranks, not even in a multi-club model, or perhaps you want to borrow a Moneyball approach like Billy Beane. The key is consistency with your approach. key is to be patient in your approach, because if you can be consistent and patient with building your squad over a number of years, over a number of seasons, eventually what you'll see on the pitch is your identity being represented as a manager, your footballing feelings being represented in game. And I suppose the great thing in Football Manager is from year to year, from save to save, we can take on multiple identities. We can explore multiple approaches. You can be a defense-driven coach for a year in Football Manager, and then when the next edition comes out, you are a pure footballing philosophy centered coach like Cruyff or Guardiola. But the thing is, taking the time to develop that in game, from your recruitment focuses to your tactical approach to the development of your young players, that is the key to making your identity come to life in game, and for you to truly see what it is you're doing, not in a short, very quick basis of, perhaps 1 to 3 years, like you might unfortunately only get played by the time FM25 comes out, but in a full edition of the game. Understand that the first season or two may not be where the success happens, but once you get, say, to seasons 3 and on, that's where the magic begins to happen. And look at Sir Alex Ferguson. Was it 5-6 years before a trophy was won at Manchester United? And then 38 over the 26 years in total. 38 over 26 years is phenomenal. But if you rule out the first 5, 38 in 20 years. That is what long-term patience, that is legacy, that is recruitment focus and development focus all coming together in harmony to really create a successful atmosphere, really create a successful club, and show you off as a successful manager. But look, we'll leave it there. If you liked the episode, if you liked the pod, please, give us a thumbs up, subscribe on YouTube, follow the pod and subscribe in your podcast feed, or whether it's Spotify or any of the other apps. But look, I want to say massive thank you for taking the time to listen. Massive thank you if you've taken the time to watch as well. I hope you've gained some valuable insights today that you can use in your save, or maybe you just appreciate the value of recruitment a little bit more. But whatever it is, thanks again for taking the time to watch, listen, and get involved to let us know how you're getting on with these things. But until next time, I've been Gaffer Graemo, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye now.